Hello, and welcome to Charisms for Catholics. My name is Jill Simons, and I'm the executive director at Many Parts Ministries, where we equip the body of Christ by helping people learn about and discern their charisms, which is really another word for spiritual gifts. When you discern your charisms, you're able to see how the Holy Spirit is already active in your life and where He is inviting you to further build the church. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's episode of Charisms for Catholics. Today we are going to be talking about the saints that lived out of this charism of pastoring. Now, a lot of people get confused about pastoring because they don't necessarily feel drawn to leadership roles. Maybe they aren't teachers, but they still feel like, or they have discerned that they have this gift of pastoring. And that is totally normal. It is very likely, very possible for people to have a gift of pastoring without being in a leadership or a teaching position, because pastoring, more than anything, is about accompanying people, about going through life with people and having the longevity in the connections and the relationships with people in your life so that you become really a safe place. And I almost use the word avatar, but it's kind of that embodiment of the steadfastness of Christ in people's lives. And so, once again, I have our staff member, Theresa Zoe Williams, here with me to chat about several saints today that embody this gift of pastoring. So, thank you so much, Theresa, for being here with me today.
Jill, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on again.
So, let's go ahead and jump right in. Who is the first saint we're going to be chatting about today?
Yes, the first saint is Saint John Bosco, who, I say this about so many saints, but I adore him. I think it's good to adore a lot of saints and have a wide base of people that you can look to for all the aspects of your life. But John Bosco was the first person who came to mind when I was looking at saints for pastoring, because it, that is his whole thing. Accompaniment is his whole thing. Um, and we've had saints who were pupils of him for other charisms. He just brought out the best in the people that he encountered. But some of the specific things about him, like in the beginning, he learned magic tricks so that he could hold the attention of others, and then after them would preach once he had their attention. And not only is the magic tricks like a way of accompaniment, of getting people there, but then how he preached brought people further in and made them want to stay and learn more. Um, and so oh man, there's so much to say about him. I love him so much. He, as we know, or is very famous for, he targeted the overlooked boys in the slums and pastored them to keep them out of prison and found lodging for them. And then he would teach them as well. Um, and he found the people who needed him most, and he learned how to relate to them. And then he brought them into a better way of life. Uh, whether we're talking religion or just in their daily life, he found their basic necessities for them and made sure that they were safe. um, he negotiated better working conditions for boys who were apprentices. um, Again, just like that, finding where someone is being taken advantage of and going with them to understand what's going on and to understand what they're up against, and then finding a better way forward for them. Um, and in his time, like, this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have child labor laws. We don't have um, homes for children who are, on the streets and things like that. We don't have wards of the state or anything like that. We don't have foster families and things. He became that to all of these people, to all of these children. Um,
The charism of pastoring just and what you're sharing about him just is the number one where just the image of Christ is so clear. Obviously Christ had the fullness of all 24 charisms, but the one where it's just like the first picture I think of with it is pastoring. And we see in an expanded way Saint John Bosco showing up truly in persona Christi as a priest to these boys in as Christ the Good Shepherd, really, showing them how to move forward, really shepherding them. And some other organizations and assessments actually use the word shepherding instead of pastoring as their kind of moniker for this gift, because there is that active going with that he exemplifies that is a part of the gift as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, it's just when the first image that comes to mind when we say Jesus Christ, for me, is Christ with the children. Um, and that's who I picture Christ to be, like embracing the little children who have come to him. I see myself as a little child that comes to him. Like I'm not uh pompous enough to believe that I'm an adult in relation to anything bigger than myself. And in the slightest. And especially in relation to God, I know that I am small. Um, and John Bosco really embodied that. And what's great is he got to see the fruit from that too. He immediately saw boys in better living conditions with better jobs, living better lives, who became teachers and priests and things themselves. And he got to see them use their own charisms and go out in ways that they wouldn't have been able to if he didn't first accompany them through all of the muck.
Yeah.
And the muck never bothered him, like he was there. He was just always there. And how cool that, some of those people that he did pastor went on to become saints themselves because of his example.
Yeah.
He was truly, like you said, in persona Christi to them.
Yeah.
Um, and I just love John Bosco so much.
And that's so common in a person with pastoring is there's almost I know some people where this is their gift, and we were in a group of friends where one person in our group of friends was having a hard time, and so their instinct was to pull away, and the person with pastoring got very mad at them because they were exactly like you said, like the muck didn't bother them. We're like, no, that's literally the point of this. Like, where are you
Yeah.
going? Like, we're supposed to be going through this together. Like, don't deprive me of the opportunity to go through this with you because this is what I desire.
Yes, yes, exactly. I wrote a book on like the Disney princesses and how they fit into our faith life. And I did Wendy Darling from Peter Pan as one of them. And the saint I matched her up with was Saint John Bosco, because in her story, she's not afraid to just go with the literal lost boys and accompany them, be what they needed, someone to be for them. And then she led them into a better life. Like in the play, the story, um, most of the Lost Boys come back to from Neverland with her, and they all find families. She finds them families and things. Um, so she literally accompanies them into a better life, into a new life. And then with her daughter and her grandchildren, like going off with Peter Pan, like she leads them in these ways and
Mhm.
things. And that's exactly what John Bosco does. It just Oh, I got the goosebumps because he's such a big figure in my life because I was a teacher, and I was a youth minister, and my favorite story has always been that of Peter Pan, and just seeing the parallels. And my oldest son is named Peter for two people, Saint Peter and Peter Pan, um, because I just identify so heavily with John Bosco and see so much of him in me, or in how I try to live at least.
Yeah.
Um,
A fun
he might
point
be my favorite.
a fun point of many parts trivia is that my oldest son is also Peter, also for two people, Saint Peter and Peter Parker.
Ah, I love it.
Yes.
My son likes to tell us that he's also named for Peter Parker.
That's awesome. Yeah, he can have an
Yeah,
honorific on that. Well, we could talk about Saint John Bosco for forever,
I could
but
talk about
I
him
my
hours.
my guy is your next one, so I want to talk about him.
Do it. All right, let's go. Pope Saint John Paul II. He he's special to me because he taught me what it means to be a Catholic in the world. He taught me what someone loving you really means. He taught me what going out into the world means. Um, I call him my papa.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he was pope for, I mean, since before I was
Yeah.
born, and then I was very blessed to be able to go to his wake, and some of my friends went to his funeral, and some more went to Pope Benedict's installation. But I was studying abroad in Austria when he died, um, and we had gone to Rome as a school a month or so before he died. And we prayed outside of his hospital room, and he came to the window and blessed us. And um, then I got to go to the wake and see his body. And he loomed so largely in my life because I mean, he set up the principles of so many things that the people who then taught and pastored me used.
Mhm.
And because even though he's Pope and he's talking to everybody, he had a way about him of feeling like it was personal.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge part of pastoring, like
Mhm.
making things feel, not just making them feel, but really embodying that they are personal
Yeah.
to you. So like he started World Youth Day,
Mhm.
and bringing the youth of the world together so that we could experience each other and experience Christ in the midst of each other, right? He always had a personalized message for pilgrims and visitors. Like for us, he it was just a message of thanks when we were praying for him. Just the gratitude that you remember me.
Yeah.
Oh, we remember each other
Yeah.
in this. Like goosebumps again because it's just so encompassing.
Yeah.
Um, the way he wrote his encyclicals and documents, they were so familiar. It's like he's writing directly, like a letter directly to you. Um, he showed the whole world on many, many levels what it means to be not afraid. Um, with his Parkinson's diagnosis and progressing farther than we've ever seen someone progress with Parkinson's and live. Um, how amazing that is that he allowed his life to be that for us, really leading by example with us.
Because he really pastored all of us. I'm in your same generation,
Yes.
and that was such a like it was a very big like how do we be Catholic without dad? Like when he
Yes.
died, that and have never been on the same continent at the same time he was, and it was just so all encompassing. And our Bishop Emeritus here in Tulsa, um what used to be my spiritual director, and he was actually ordained by John Paul II as a bishop, which was like fantastic. And so he was just sharing with me about that experience. And exactly like you said, he was talking about how, as he was interacting with him, being ordained, these things, obviously with lots of bishops from all over the world, he was like, it felt like it was like my ordination, like, and it was just kind of him and me, not in a so similar to our relationship with God is like him and me, and we experience that intimacy so intensely in a way that somehow doesn't exclude anybody else, like where there's
Right.
still all of
Right.
everybody else is having a them and me. And we see just one of the things that I have always been so taken with about him is just like the level of transparency in terms of like he had diminished so much that it was just so clearly Christ as the operating principle in him. And there's a wonderful book by darling friend of mine, Fabiola Garza, about the boy who would become Pope,
It became Pope. Yes.
which I cannot recommend highly enough. And it's my 2-year-old will bring it to me to read it, and halfway through he'll be like wiping up to or reaching up to wipe my eyes because he's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, this man, this story, I love this. When they talk about, and such a powerful, and maybe we're going to share about this, but this powerful episode specifically of pastoring when he was Archbishop in Poland, when
Yes.
on Christmas Eve, it was during the communist regime in Poland, and it was not legal to worship publicly. He processed with all kinds of people in Warsaw to this field outside the city, put up a huge cross and offered midnight Christmas mass, and there were so many people that the guards, the army there didn't even try anything because they knew they couldn't control that large a group of people. And he was leading specifically, and we know how much his heart for Poland was a huge part of
Yeah.
so many things that he
Yeah.
did, because he saw those as his people, exactly like we're talking about. This was his people to shepherd, and then, you know, God in his goodness gave him to all of us to recognize that
Yeah.
we were all
Yeah. Yeah.
his people. And it just, I think that it is so much of what's responsible for the resurgence in, like, orthodoxy and interest and buy-in in Catholics our age, because this was like our dad in our formative years, and that just made such a difference to us.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I would not be the person I am today. I would not have the faith that I have today if it was not for John Paul II.
Mhm.
Um, Hands down, like there's no question,
Yeah.
nothing about it. He was dad.
Yeah.
He really was dad in the Catholic faith. And he has a special place in my family's life because part of my family is Polish also and came from Warsaw.
Mhm.
Um, Shortly before he would have come up as a priest. So they never were there when he was um, pope or priest, but um, they always carried him with them.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he became known outside of Poland, like my family carried him in their prayers and in their hearts with him. Um, so just a nice personal, more personal touch for me too with
Yeah.
him. Um, and my mom just adored him, and it was so evident in her life that she loved because she learned how to love from the best,
Mhm.
like the best of the best. He
Yeah.
was really her model in life, and that was him and Saint Francis of Assisi.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just it was a huge blow when he died.
It
You know.
was, absolutely. But I think that that's, he left us with, again, just as, I'm such a broken record about this, but like that renewed sense of what is possible, because
Yes.
there was such a long list of like, nobody can do this, nobody can do that, nobody can do the other thing, especially when it came to global communism and things like that. And there were so many things that he accomplished in his life and in his papacy that everybody said was impossible, and he was the one, again, just like, maybe from the outside looking in, like, idiot enough to go for it, but we know that he knew, like, from his relationship with
Yeah.
God, that this was something that was possible. And so there's, obviously, we know and are that all of these saints that we're talking about have many, many gifts, and we're kind of drawing out one to focus on, but there's
Right.
clearly so many that were operating in the lives of all of these people because of their level of dependence and reliance on God. But we could
Yes.
talk, like, we could do like full episodes on each of these
Yeah.
people. I don't want to short shrift our third guy who is also awesome. So let's go ahead
Yes.
and hear about him.
Yes. Saint Philip Neri. Um, he had a special talent in bringing out the best in the people around him. And in human relationships. So again, that pastoring accompaniment piece, um, just in the way he would talk, like people would then come out of it going, "Oh, I want to live this better life that he's talking about." Um, and then people would follow him and do whatever he did because they wanted to be like him. They wanted to have what he had, and he wanted them to have what he had. So he would lead them in the Christian life. And like one of the things he did, he would lead his followers into hospitals to pray for and attend to the sick who were there, which was kind of unheard of. Like you have to be a really special person to work with the sick, someone unafraid of getting sick. And he was like, no, it's all of our jobs to care for each other. Like, how are we going to do it? Let's go be beside them. Let's pray for them. Let's do whatever they need in that moment. Let's be their nurses right now. And so in that aspect, he's pastoring people to follow him into these actions. And then he's also pastoring the people that he's serving, uh, accompanying them in their illnesses and in their struggles. Um, and one of the coolest things about him is he would listen to confessions from sun up to sundown. I don't know about you, but our confession line is never very long at my church, which breaks my heart, because confession it isn't just about admitting guilt, right? It's about receiving mercy. It's really the sacrament of mercy. Um, and he would listen to the confessions from sunup to sundown because so many people wanted to go to him specifically to be pastored, to be listened to be healed in a spiritual sense. Um, that there was just so many of them, and he would have to quit at sundown so that he could get a little bit of sleep so that he could do it again the next day. Like,
Yeah.
um, just just an amazing person of the people,
Mhm.
like, really being in the midst of the people he that were around him, being one of them and also leading them on to more than what they had. Uh, just a very special man.
And always
Yeah,
really marked with joy. I have read a lot of
yeah,
times that, like, he is the one that, like, despite, I don't know, 12 hours of listening to sins would probably be
right.
kind of depressing to me, I would have to think, like, hearing everyone's deepest, darkest secrets for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
But goodness knows that's why God in his mercy did not make me a man or give me a priestly vocation. But it is something that he was still showing forth, like, the fullness of those fruits of the Holy Spirit in that, and I've heard so frequently specifically about his joy.
Yes, like he was never like it might look daunting to some people to have to listen to confessions from to sundown, for instance. But to him, it was like this great privilege, like that he got to sit here and he's entrusted with this. And uh, these people come to him. And who wouldn't be attracted
Yeah.
to something like that, to someone like that? Who wouldn't want to go spill your deepest, darkest secrets to someone who is not only going to listen to you, not only going to give you the absolution you desire, but is also going to look on you with joy and love. Like, what a great gift that you're here.
Mhm.
Like, it's not, oh man, you're here again. You've sinned again. It's, oh, you're here again. Oh, wonderful. Let's prepare this.
Mhm.
Like, oh, what a gift that is in a person.
Yeah.
And I've never had a confessor that was quite like this.
Yeah.
Where I definitely want to go back to the same one, and I definitely want to make sure that like this person is the one listening to me. Um, because it's rare.
Absolutely.
It's, at least in where I'm at.
And a lot of people will
Lots of
ask.
great priests,
Yes.
not
A lot of people ask, like, does a pastor have to have pastoring? Like, looking at priests, is this something that's required? And it's definitely not. It's not something where somebody's priestly vocation is less than or invalidated or anything in any way if pastoring is not one of the gifts that they have currently received. That said, all three of these saints that we've talked about today would be excellent intercessors for your parish priest. If you are
yes.
looking for men to pray and take your priest to the throne of God in heaven, intercede for him. These you can't get better than these three that we've talked about today. Saint John Bosco, John Paul II, and Saint Philip Neri are all going to be great people to entrust your priest to and to just pray for the continued opening up the gifts that they do have and maybe the continued outpouring of new gifts upon them so that they can continue to be in persona Christi in their priestly vocation. So we are so excited to share more saints with you in the future. We are going to have another episode like this in 2 weeks. We will go through all of the saints for our next charism, which is music. We've got some great ones and maybe some that you've never heard of coming up in that episode that I think you're really going to enjoy. So listen again in 2 weeks. Next week, we'll be back with a regular episode so that we will just continue to work through all of the charisms to share about saints with them. Thank you so much for being with us this week. If you'd like more information about just the saints we talked about in this episode, go ahead and check out the show notes where there is just their names, and you can continue to search their names and learn about them more from there. God bless you and have a great week. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode of Charisms for Catholics. If you would like to learn more about your charisms or begin your own discernment journey, head to our website at manypartsministries.com, where you can download our free PDF guide to all 24 charisms and also begin your own journey by taking our charism assessment.